to point blank. The Cubs win the World Series. 10-5 touchdown. Kansas City. Damian Williams runs to immortality and will be remembered forever in the Chiefs kingdom.
Welcome in to the Brawl Network podcast. Here's your host.
Welcome everybody to another Friday live edition of the Brawl Network podcast. It's me, your producer, at UPJ33 on the Twitter. And the guys tonight, we are joined by Micah Wright at Micah_Wright on the Twitter, and Kyle Henning at KThen16. Good evening, boys.
What's going on, guys?
How's it going?
Same thing. Oh, I'm not even, you know what? I'm not going to do what I did to the guys last night and just throw a loop into the whole show right away because you asked me that question. So we're just going to move on.
No curveballs? That's okay. That's fine. We're good with no curveballs.
All right, man. You guys got a lot of stuff to get to because you have this awesome rundown you did. So, Micah and Kyle, take it away, babies.
Well, since we started with curveballs that we're not going to get, why don't we start there with baseball doing baseball things, huh?
Oh, I mean,
the Major League babies?
It's so bad.
We talked about this.
And then they did it. We talked about it. And then
worse than ever before, it seems like. I don't remember something that bad.
The thing about this was, it wasn't like it was just the other team whining about it. Like, first of all, Eric Hosmer was like chastising him. Now, I don't know how many of you remember or not, but Eric Hosmer was part of a Royals team that broke every unwritten baseball rule in history for 2 seasons.
Yep.
And then you're going to sit there and tell him, hey, you can't swing on a 3-0 green light? Like, okay, look. First of all, you're a professional athlete. You're playing a professional. This isn't the Y. This is not the YMCA. This is not a rec league. If you don't want the other team to score, don't let them. Don't let them.
It's simple. I mean, that's the whole thing. That's everyone's argument, and it's the only argument to have.
Well, the thing
pitch. Don't let it get to 3-0. You're in control of that situation.
It's 3-0 because you missed the strike zone 3 times.
It's 3-0 because your team stinks. And that's why
that's the other part of this. If this was like the Yankees or like the Cubs who have won like 90% of their games and they're smashing another bad team and they're blowing somebody out and then somebody grooves a 3-0 pitch and somebody goes yard, okay, fine, I can get that a little more. We're talking about the Padres. They lost a 5-game losing streak.
Can we celebrate a 21-year-old or 22, however old Fernando Tatis is? Can we celebrate star players in the MLB?
And stop pretending they didn't grow up around the game when their dad was an MLB player? Did you see that quote?
Who said that?
The manager for the Rangers was like, yeah, all of us that grew up around the game know that that's kind of like a cardinal sin. I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure the guy whose dad played baseball in the major league for 10 years probably grew up around the game a little, I would think, guy. But then his own manager comes out and chastises him. And I don't know how you can ask him to apologize for hitting a ball over a fence.
And he did. He had to release that apology. That was, kind of an apology.
He apologized more than I would have.
Oh, I wouldn't have. No. I wouldn't have been in
the only thing I will grant is after that he turns around and he steals third on the dude who threw at Machado after he went yard the night before. Which, good on him.
That's all you can do. Just keep playing. Keep being a star. Fans love you for the most part. Your opposing players are taking the fun away from it.
Well, the opposing players, minus like the two people from the Rangers that had a problem with it. Like you saw all the pitchers and all the players come out. Also, if we're going to talk about unwritten baseball rules, when Johnny Bench comes out on Twitter and says, "Hey, your unwritten rule is stupid, hit the ball over the fence," that's pretty much it.
Johnny Bench played in what, like 4 different, like 1950s through 70s, 80s, however long he played.
Yeah, one of the greatest players ever. He was like, "Hey, that's dumb."
Imagine the unwritten rules then.
Oh, I'm sure they probably existed far less then because they didn't bother with things like that.
That's why he's saying it's stupid, because he played.
Yeah, there's
a time where, I mean, it's just.
And it wasn't just him. There were several Hall of Fame superstar old time players that came out and were like, "What are you talking about?" Like, no. So, but on that same conversation of other players and stuff and crazy unwritten baseball rules, how about written baseball rules? Trevor Bauer, did you see the cleat controversy?
Trevor Bauer can be every player in the MLB needs to be like Trevor Bauer.
It's funny because a lot of people used to hate him for a lot of things, and he used to be he's a real polarizing dude, but he has
mouth. I mean, he deserves.
He's winning all the brownie points right now.
Yeah, this year. I mean, everything's going down. That's going down is perfect for Trevor Bauer. Trevor Bauer for years has been the biggest thing that I supported him a lot because he was like watching a game and says, "Oh, it's blacked out." That's literally, he was trying to be a fan. So he's the voice of the fans for that reason, and he's saying Manfred has done nothing to help us out as a brand, as a league. So there's that. But then this year with the Astros and everything, it's music to all the fans' ears who hate the Astros. And then with Joe Kelly, you can't wear Joe Kelly cleats, when I'm sure how many fans would buy those cleats?
Well, what's crazy to me is he flat out says it. He tweeted out that the MLB told them that they could put whatever they wanted on those cleats as long as it wasn't I believe it was political or something or something insensitive, and the cleats that he was going to wear fit all the criteria, and they told him they were going to fine him and suspend him for a ton of games if he did it.
It's a joke.
Yet you didn't fine or suspend an entire roster because you gave them a plea bargain on some nonsense. I can't wrap my head around it.
It's just a joke, but I mean, like, what other stories would the MLB give us right now? It's kind of nice that we just have a league to make fun of.
Well, I can't argue.
Wait. Major League Babies has been a league to make fun of since I was a itty-bitty wee child, long before you guys were born.
Exactly.
How long has Manfred been the commissioner? Because he's the reason.
He's made it that much worse.
He hasn't even been the commissioner that long because it was Bud Selig until
Selig
5 years ago?
Selig was an owner of a team.
While wasn't he the owner of the team while he was the commissioner?
Yeah, he was the one that he's the reason why the Milwaukee Brewers are there.
Yeah, that in and of itself is wild. But no, usually the kick drum, like we talked about last week, is the NHL on this because their commissioner is notoriously bad at doing things correctly. But nope, Manfred has routinely over the last half decade or so made a disaster piece of baseball.
I don't think he needed much help, though. You know, I mean, like,
well,
yeah.
It was already kind of going that direction. He just kind of came over and he was the last guy on the elevator that it broke, but he wasn't the fattest guy in the elevator for the reason why it was overloaded. Okay, like that's all I can tell you.
Absolutely. And the thing is with that is baseball has some natural issues in and of itself. This country is very short attention span when it comes to their entertainment. And baseball is not a short attention span sport, as it is. And then when you take all of the fun, exciting things out of it, like hitting grand slams, and you make it a big problem, and you make it like you talked about with the Puig thing, who, by the way, he's a free agent at the moment currently. I think I heard the other day, which is just mind-numbing to me. But when you take all the, I don't know, excitement out of the sport that already has the least amount of excitement out of all of them, I don't know what you're expecting to happen, especially when you have the worst TV deals out of all of them too. So I don't know. But here again, we're talking about the Padres and the inability for them to hit grand slams and do this stuff, and they have 4 straight now.
4. Thank God the Padres. I mean, everyone's a Padres fan right now. Thank God they responded with 4 straight games, or 3 more games with a grand slam. And Machado hit a walk-off grand slam.
I was going to say, one was a walk-off in extras, wasn't it?
Just shove it in the Rangers' face. You guys are babies. We're going to hit grand slams every game. That's one way to do it. That's one way to end it. But I think we've given enough time to Too much time.
To the Major League babies. I'm not even gonna. We're gonna transition away now because it's just not worth it. Like, I don't get it. So with that, we're gonna go NBA here because I want to talk bubble and I want to talk these 2 LA series, the West. I want to talk about the West. So give me your Clippers Mavs. Like, what's this? Looks to me like I heard a whole bunch about how the Mavericks weren't gonna win a game, and it always struck me as odd. But now that, oh, by the way, they've basically dominated both of the first 2 games, and the only reason the Clippers won the first one was because they tossed Kristaps on some nonsensory.
Yep, exactly. It could very well be 2-0. Dallas, you can't say a team with Luka Doncic and Kristaps Porzingis aren't going to win one game. I'm thinking it's going to go to 7.
I actually don't hate Dallas upsetting
absolutely
the Clippers.
Not. I love Dallas as an upset pick. Their role players are so underrated. Seth Curry, Dorian Finney-Smith, Tim Hardaway, all those guys. Hardaway and Finney-Smith are 2 guys who can guard PG and Leonard.
And Seth gets no love because he's not Steph, so...
Still a great shooter.
Right. If he wasn't related to the best shooter on the planet, he'd probably get a little more love.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm forgetting some other role players. Boban's one.
Boban is the NBA enigma. He is that one-off giant European dude, traditional center that can play in a game where it's a smaller ball lineup and he's still not completely lost.
No.
That last name sounds like he should be a character on The Simpsons with a really wacky accent. Hello, my name is Boban. I am here to help you.
That's not his last name. That's his first name.
I'm just saying. I didn't say it was his first name. Maybe it's his first and last name. He's just Boban.
What's better?
I am Boban.
Boban. That's what it's like the soccer players with the one name. They just call him Boban. His last name is like Marjanovic or something.
Marjanovic.
Uninteresting.
What about Bogdan Bogdanovic?
Yeah, and good luck keeping all of them straight because there's another one I think it's even close to those 2 as well. There's another one that's close or have guys that have like the exact same name or like 2 letters are switched or something, and they're different dudes for different teams. Playing daily fantasy with an abbreviated first letter of a first name and a last name that looks identical almost is really difficult. Sometimes you got to pay attention to the team. But
yeah,
what about what happened to the Blazers last night? And my boy, the modern AI, breaking his hand or whatever happened to him. I tuned into that game because I was talking with the guys on last night's show. If you want to check it out. And, we're talking about Damian Lillard. I'm like, dude, got to tune into that game. That's my guy. He reminds me of AI. He's crazy. Don't piss him off. It makes him play harder. I forget about the game doing my dad stuff, right, and everything else I got going on. And all of a sudden I'm like, crap. And I turn on the game. It's a blowout. And I'm like, where's my guy? And then I find out he broke his hand.
Well, what happened is they were getting blown out before he dislocated his finger, and then he messed his finger up on a ball. But Micah, you can pretty much cover what happened with the Lakers in the Portland game. There's a real simple answer to this one, I think.
Anthony Davis.
Yep, that's the answer.
As soon as I was thinking before the game, which, of course I get nervous. As a Lakers fan, I'm like, oh my gosh, are we going to lose to an 8th seed? Haven't been to the playoffs in 8 years. And I'm like, oh yeah, Anthony Davis hits a jumper. That's game over. If he's hitting a jumper, which he hit, I think, 2 or 3 threes after going 0 for 5 in game 1, he can just take over any game.
Yeah, and the other thing everybody seems to forget is, and I know that this is an unpopular opinion for a lot of old NBA basketball heads, but the guy that's playing with him hasn't lost in the first round in the playoffs since he was. I don't know if he ever has. Has he ever lost a first round series?
I think he said it yesterday.
I think he's lost some games in a first round series, but I don't think he's ever lost a first round series ever. Period.
And he was only down. I think his record was 10-8 in games where he's down 1-0 or 2-0. I think I saw that stat, but none of those I don't think were in the first round. And he had 10 points. He didn't even need to show up.
Yeah, most of those are against the Warriors in the finals when it was him against the Warriors in the finals.
Yep. LeBron didn't even need to show up last night.
Well, but that was everybody's freakout point. Was the game before he balled out, did something nobody else has ever done, and they lost. And it was like everybody's like, "What happened?" Well, Portland was going to steal one game because Damian Lillard has that ability.
You talk about Allen Iverson, Jay. This is the Sixers-Lakers type finals.
Yeah,
that's probably how it's going to go down. 5 games.
But do you know what else I was listening to Max Kellerman today on ESPN Radio, right? And he's talking.
Now talks all sports.
Yeah, and he's talking about AD, and they're talking about AD, and he's telling me, that AD is an all-star player and all this. Okay, look, I'm not an NBA savant the way I am an NFL guy, but NBA, honestly, it does not take, and I don't mean to be mean, but it doesn't take the brains or the hard work or the power of NFL, right? It's an easier game, and it's mostly chalk, right? You can tell easily who the good players are and who you can't. Anthony Davis is overhyped. He's a guy that has all the potential in the world, and he shows up for a game like tomorrow, and I bet you we don't see him for 3 games. Or he's on that fringe where, it's not an Anthony Davis 5-star, all-star kind of guy that you'd expect, but they're not bad numbers. You can't call him a scrub. He doesn't have it. He's got all this size, all this talent. If Shaq was able to have his athletic talent in the body he had, he would have been even more dominant. Like, Anthony Davis can shoot better than Shaq ever could, and he's, not bigger, but he's faster and probably a little bit stronger, but he's, he can't dominate a game the way Shaq can. Well, Shaq got fat, that's why he was strong. No, there's a difference between being big and immovable and being super strong. Just because you're 7 foot tall and 300 pounds doesn't mean you're strong, just means you have a lot of mass to move.
Sure. Shaq was a monster, okay? Shaq is one of the strongest human beings that's ever played that game.
But Anthony Davis should be able to dominate because Shaq also played in an era where there was other big dudes that were like him and they could bang on him. You can't touch Anthony Davis.
So the thing with Anthony Davis is the knock on him when he was in New Orleans was, does he have the ability to carry a team by himself? And I'm still not sure that he does. I don't think he does. And that's fine because you're not asking him to. You have LeBron.
Yeah. But you don't have LeBron. That's my point, and I've been trying to tell people that. When LeBron left Cleveland, LeBron left LeBron in Cleveland. The entirety of what we knew from LeBron to that point has been, it's like that series, that 3-year stretch where he had to go against the Golden State Warriors was like a healthy young man starting to date a succubus. And after 3 years, he looks like he's an 80-year-old, and he's still not that old, okay? Now we get spurts of LeBron James, and everybody, and is he still the greatest player? No, because the greatest player has to have all the traits of LeBron James, what he once did, but be able to do what LeBron set the bar at all the time. LeBron can't meet the bar that LeBron set anymore, okay?
Look at his numbers.
It's not about numbers, man.
The league in assists. Wait till the playoffs.
They moved him. They moved him positions.
LeBron doesn't have. Okay, stop with the positions in the NBA. NBA has been positionalist for the last 10 to 12 years. They just use them there. So, LeBron has never had a position. He's 6'8" and 265 pounds. And most of the time on most teams, he plays point guard.
He's listed at 265 pounds. He's also listed at 6'8". Those are not accurate. listed at 265 pounds when he was walking around with 3 bills of muscle 5 years ago. He's not that heavy anymore, but it's like the NFL with that. They don't list squat correctly. Let's be real. But LeBron doesn't take Kawhi days. Let's call them Kawhi days. That's what I'm going to do. Yeah. Or don't play the second game of a back-to-back, or I can't, I have to do...
No, he just takes time off during the game instead.
Risk management? What is it? Load management.
Load management. That's the new stupid word in the sports world.
Imaginary, I don't want to play 82 games even though it's in my contract. That one. LeBron has and will continue to control it until he chooses not to. He has the skill set to do whatever he wants when he chooses to. Also, he didn't do it last year because he got hurt, but he was killing people before he got hurt last year.
Okay, so Christmas Day. But why is it that it's such okay, I'm 37 years old, dude. Now I know I can go back to the gym that I trained at for 10 years, right? And I can go in there and I'm actually way more. I can lift more. I'm stronger and bigger, but I'm slower. I'm less athletic. Now, I could go into that gym and probably go about 3 or 4 rounds and knock dudes out I couldn't knock out before faster. But after that, I'm going to start tailing off, okay? That's the difference between being 25 and being 37, okay?
Sure.
And now LeBron is probably stronger than he was when he was younger because it happens. But this idea that it's blasphemy for me to say he's 33, 34 years old. When I watch him, I can tell he's 33 or 34 years old. The LeBron that we know and love, the LeBron that we hold the standard to, doesn't exist anymore. That's just the reality. Now, just like a quarterback, as his legs and certain things go, like an Aaron Rodgers or a Tom Brady, you can still be great. You change up your things. But that doesn't mean you're the same player. It doesn't mean you're as dominant fully as you were before. And so I understand why people want to get defensive, because I have argued that if you put him and Jordan on a court together, he's going to probably smoke Jordan, okay? Because he's just more athletic, rounded player. And people get mad at me about that. I'm a Jordan guy.
Drop kick him off the court and make it look bad one-on-one. And I know nobody likes to hear that, but sorry.
It's the truth.
It's just... physically go look at they have basically the same game, and one of them has 30 pounds, an extra 3 inches, and all kinds of athletic ability that the other one doesn't have.
Exactly. It's not that hard. But so that's all I'm saying here is I'm not a LeBron hater. I love the guy. I love to watch him. My point is that why do the Lakers struggle? It's because they do this to their franchise all the time. They struggle in and out. They're not going to make it to the finals, guys. I hate to tell you this. They're not going to make it to the finals because what we saw last night is not sustainable. Not from LeBron and not from AD, and that's their guys, and they got nobody else.
It's round 1, and LeBron's not playing every night.
LeBron hasn't kicked it in yet.
This is tune-up time.
LeBron will have a 35, 40-point game in this series.
He just went 25, 15, and 15.
It was 17 and 18.
Whatever. He just went 25, 15, and 15.
Even better than that.
I didn't say they were going to lose this series. I said they're not making it to the finals.
Well, if the Clippers don't get past Dallas, there's nobody in the West that's stopping them.
Yeah, I think the Clippers will get past Dallas. And I have also seen a Dallas team that had less on it than it has now beat a better team, a much better team that had superstars on it with LeBron James on it. So I don't want to hear this. I don't want to hear. Yeah, and he was younger, faster, and had more athletic ability.
That was also their first year together.
Okay, I'm just telling you.
They'd never played together before. None of the 3 on that roster had played any minutes together before, and they were also still filling in a bench that they hadn't nailed down yet because Pat Riley and Spoelstra hadn't figured it out all the way yet. You also had a first-year coach at that point, too. Remember that.
The Lakers are in the same kind of boat, though. AD and LeBron have never played together, and they had 3 months off right when they were getting together.
They have played together. They just haven't played a season together. They played on the Olympic teams together. They have played international ball together. They have...
So they have him and D-Wade?
Same roster. LeBron and Dwayne Wade had played one Olympics at that point. Anthony Davis and LeBron have played in what, 3 now, Micah? Before this?
So, 2, at least 2.
So
I digress, though. That wasn't my point, because it sounds like I'm hating on LeBron. I'm just saying that it's not.
Definitely not LeBron.
I'm not hating on LeBron. It's the
he'll
fact.
drop
Look,
55
I'm the old cat in the room, and I just got to keep it real, man. You guys expect too much from aging athletic bodies, man. We can give you so much, but you're expecting too much, man. He needs help.
I think that's obvious.
I think the most underrated part of LeBron's game is his mind.
Yes, led the league in assists.
That's what he's going to have to do to get this team where it needs to go,
That's all he needs to do. AD is the guy who can score the most. LeBron can still get you 20, 25, and actually be good defensively.
And he doesn't even have to be an athletic to get you 20, 25 anymore.
Okay.
He's smarter than most of the guys that touch the ball. And he understands the game.
LeBron is the smartest player in the NBA. Let's stop with all this.
And it's really not all that close.
No, there's a Grand Canyon in the basketball IQ of LeBron James and the next guy. Let's just stop with that silliness.
And the other funny part about that is the second smartest guy in the league is one of his best friends.
Yeah.
So I don't know. All right, we've done the NBA now. Let's do this. I'm gonna ask you a 5-set. I just want one answer, Micah. Who is it? Who's your Stanley Cup teams?
Colorado Avalanche, Tampa Bay Lightning.
Okay.
Two of my favorite hockey teams growing up.
I have no issue. I have no issue with either one of those. Those are both very probable. As a matter of fact, you have one of my picks. Colorado is my pick out of the West. The West is a 2-horse race for me. It's Vegas and Colorado, and there's really not anybody else that's anywhere in the conversation.
Micah, do you remember Jaromir Jagr?
Yes.
Yeah, that was my boy.
I remember the highlights. I mean, I wouldn't watch a whole lot of hockey, but I'd see the highlights. They'd say, "Oh, this 48-year-old just scored a goal."
I was going to say, what do you mean remember him? He retired like last summer.
The best hair maybe of all time.
He started playing hockey before I was born, and he retired like last summer.
Yep, that was the guy. And they had a goalie that everybody was wondering if he had saran wrap behind him because nothing got by him. Patrick Waugh.
That boy is in Colorado, and so
Montreal.
I hope to God that they knock Philly out. I can't stand the Flyers. Obviously, I'm a Penguins person, but the Flyers, if they never win anything ever again, it will be too soon.
You guys are just nailing all my teams from back in the day because I loved the Flyers because they had Eric Lindros. The Penguins had Mario Lemieux.
That dude was a human concussion.
Mario Lemieux?
No, Eric Lindros.
Oh, Eric Lindros. I was going to say Mario Lemieux was the walking...
Non-Hodgkin's lymphoma is what stopped Mario Lemieux from being in the conversation, more in the conversation with greatest player ever. He's in it, but he's not as in it as he would be had he got to play his whole career.
There is a difference in the canyon between Michael Jordan and LeBron James. Nobody's ever. There is no second even close. If the second place guy lives in Europe, Wayne Gretzky is in the middle of the United States. You can't get any further apart from the.
And
they're never going to catch him.
That will argue that. And it drives me bonkers.
It's the dumbest statement ever.
I'm a Penguins fan, okay? I watched Mario growing up, but I watched Gretzky growing up, literally followed him, watched every game I could get my hands on. He was my idol. There is a reason. He is so much better than anybody else that's ever done it. And it's not... They might as well have named the NHL record book Wayne Gretzky's personal record book. There's nothing
over
else.
10,000 points ahead of the second place guy. Are you kidding me? Stop it. You're never going to even scratch that. This is one of those itches that's in the middle of your back that you can't ever get to. You've got to have your wife go get. You're not
and there are
getting
people that say, and the argument that it's because the goalies aren't as good or this or that. Okay. Yes, the game has changed, but on that same note, you know what you can't do now to star players? You can't tackle them. You can't kill them.
You can't fight them every
actually
10 seconds.
Assault in some states on them. Like some of the things that happened to star players in the 70s and 80s and 90s early on would be considered assault, and crimes would be charged if it was not on an ice rink sanctioned by a league.
Hockey is the most violent, quick twitch sport.
And you can't do half of that now.
No.
So the game is faster and this and that, but even if you talk to the best players in the world now, and they did, because they stuck them all in a room together, and they did a round table, and you had Bobby Orr, Wayne Gretzky, Mario Lemieux, and Sidney Crosby at one table with Jonathan Toews and a couple other guys, and they're talking about it, and none of them want to take the credit, but everybody in the room is sitting there going, yeah, he can say he's not, but it's right there. Like, he's there. It's the guy. That's the guy. It's the guy. It's not even close. And this was back when Gordie Howe was still around and doing all that and doing the public. Like, look, man, there's a lot of really, really great players, but you're right. The gap between 1 and 2, and I love Mario, is so far because he didn't get to finish his thing with the lymphoma and him not getting to play his whole career. It's just not. You're just not. I'm sorry. Part of his ability, part of the greatest thing about him, other than the fact that he was available all the time, he wasn't the fastest. He wasn't the most skilled. He was absolutely and unequivocally the smartest player on the ice, and everybody knew it.
Yeah, hockey was my sport, right? Growing up, like that was my bag, man. I didn't get into football until a little later, and football was interesting, but I literally played football to get me ready or stay in the ability to, have my body ready to take the hits that I was going to take, because I was a little guy, right? And the hits you take on the ice are way worse than you take out on the field, right? So I started football in like 5th or 6th grade just so that I could be more prepared going into hockey, right? Okay, so
Yep.
That was my idol. Like that was the first sport I ever watched like film on. Was Wayne Gretzky, like on VHS, had to tape the game, slow-mo, rewind, and it's all blurry, and you can't necessarily see everything. There's no HD, by the way, back then, folks, for all of you. It was standard definition, and even standard definition was terrible. Yes. Yeah, sometimes you couldn't even see the puck. You were guessing. You just knew that if Gretzky was flying, he had the puck. So, hockey has an affinity.
I'm looking. I can physically see VHS tapes that one of them has his retirement on it. I'm looking at it. I can see it.
You might have to mail that to me.
So I understand the Gretzky thing to a full extent. I watched that dude all the way through. He is, and you're right. I played football for multiple years, but the reason I started football was because hockey started hitting the following season, and I needed to be ready for physical contact. It's not to get. It was basically a primer to get ready for the actual physical contact. But on that same note, since we're talking about primers and getting ready for physical contact, NFL training camp kicked off.
Woo! How do you feel about that, Micah, with your Vegas Raiders?
I'm feeling good, of course. I mean, it's every year I just read, oh, Derek Carr incompletion or interception in practice. Oh, we got to get a new guy. I'm trying to spread some positivity amongst Raider Nation. Can we buy in at least?
You got your new guy. They paid him 2 years and $17 million.
Marcus Mario, I'll believe it when I see it. I'll believe the $8.5 million per year when I see it. And if he takes us to the playoffs and does with Ryan Tannehill, great. I just want to see a winning team. But Derek Carr is not that bad. That's all I'm going to say. He's not great, but he's not the worst like a lot of people think.
I had to change my background for you. I had to give you a new little background for this little conversation.
Okay.
He is always on your ass, isn't he? Doesn't it feel? I mean, he's supposed to be the hockey guy over here, and I feel like every Friday night he purposely goes out, throws his hockey gear off because he knows you're on the show with him, and he throws on his backwards Chiefs hat, puts on a Chiefs shirt, makes sure there's something Chiefs in the back. Like, I feel like this is he's trying so hard to get under your skin because you guys, as teams that you follow, are division rivals. Because he's supposed to be the Penguins brawl hockey guy, like.
The Penguins are my team. I'm not a big hockey guy, but the Penguins, I like the Penguins. So we have that. But I mean,
so here's the thing with me. Like, I am the big hockey guy. Absolutely. That's the start. But I've followed and been doing football for almost as long, crazily. But the reason I ask about the Raiders, I'm genuinely interested in them because you're right, they are in our division, and that kind of insight from that side is more interesting to me. I watched a video clip of your first round cornerback running with your first round wide receiver, like your first round wide receiver was standing still, and I'm wondering what do you think that says more about? Does that say more about Ruggs or Arnett?
Arnett, he was a guy I didn't even really know who he was. Or I guess I mean, just looking through draft stuff, you see his name, but then you're kind of like, oh, Ohio State cornerback, kind of look over it. But then he's drafted in the first round, so you're like, wow, is that a reach? And analysts are saying that was a reach, and it was a reach. But seeing that video, I mean,
Micah, I got good news for you, bud. The week before the NFL draft on the other show I do, Titletown Brawl with Brandon Jackson, I had, before I had Brandon on, right before the draft, I had former Ohio State wide receiver coach Zach Smith on, right? And he told me about Arnett. He said Arnett was actually the corner that was going to be least respected, was actually, in his opinion, after coaching and being around him, and seeing him, he was better than the guy that was going ahead of him. So,
Okudah, yeah.
Yep. So he actually said that he would have took Arnett over Okudah. He's like, basically put it like this, Micah. Okudah is more polished now, but in the long run, the ceiling is higher on Arnett, much higher athletic talent.
And that's the thing that was where I had him, and that's where I had a lot of the guys that reviewed him had him. Because remember, Kansas City was looking at corner in that draft too, and please believe I did a whole lot of homework on corners, linebackers, those two specific positions. Which, by the way, we decided to go running back, so might as well throw that out the window and light it on fire. But yeah. Why not? So Arnett was a surprise to me. I mean, I watched him play at Ohio State. I have one of my best friends is a humongous Ohio State fan, so I see a lot of Ohio State football. Plus, I live in Kansas, and Wichita State doesn't have a football team. KU is, well, yeah. And I don't like purple. So I watch Notre Dame football, but they have their own channel and usually their own time slot, so I find myself watching other games on Saturdays, and Ohio State is one of those. And Arnett, I had him probably a second or third round grade currently, with a ceiling of easily a first round pick. His ceiling, like you said, with his receivers coach, yeah, that's what a lot of people saw was high ceiling, but is he going to get there?
Yeah, and that's the big seeing the highlights, which is all we have right now. I mean, that's
that. All right, let's talk about that. I can appreciate, like, I have the coach in Kansas City that absolutely hates sharing things with anybody if he doesn't have to because he's the mad scientist, evil genius. Like, I get it, and we're used to him not wanting to share. But what the NFL and these teams have done with what they're allowed to report on for camp and all that nonsense is to the point where they're not even letting them report, like, who's practicing with what. Like, you can't name team, like a first team, second team, third team. You can't say who threw the ball to this person. You can't say, like, guys, if the other team, and they used scouting as I'm sorry, that was the Packers, I believe, that used that little line, Mr. J. Your front office, the team owned by the public for the public, won't share any information with the public because other teams are scouting beat writer tweets?
Yeah, they're basically making the Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love thing at camp like I heard it described like a celebrity couple out there and being covered by the tabloids. Like, oh, Ashton and Erica aren't getting along. They're not touching each other's hands when they walk down the street. It's like ridiculous. Like
you mean the guy that doesn't want to play for another franchise, but also told you wanted to play to 43, isn't super thrilled with the fact that you drafted his replacement 6 years before he turns 43?
Yeah,
but it's the team thing, and I can't understand how these teams think that it's okay to completely eliminate what they're covered. Like, I know you guys want to keep your secrets and keep people from knowing about what you're doing at practices. I get that. But you have an entire fan base that is used to attending camp and watching this stuff and talking about it, and you won't even let the beat writers that are there in their little phone booths, as I've heard them described at camp. They have people in little personalized phone booths on the field, basically. And they can't report on anything? Like, you've seen these beat writer tweets that say, like, at Packers practice today, redacted through to redacted for an incredible catch. Like, what are we doing?
This is the one year where you have to say everything going on for the fans.
Sort of, kind of, but like this is deeper because, okay, I don't want to talk about this too much because this isn't TTB and we got a lot of other stuff, we want to get to fantasy and we're getting long in the tooth, but everybody just is covering it this way, guys, and it's being pushed to cover it this way because they're trying to make Jordan Love Aaron Rodgers of 2005 and Aaron Rodgers Brett Favre, and Brandon, I asked him this right away. Aaron Rodgers mentally is not built that way. The type of person he is, no matter what you think of him, he will never do or be the guy doing to another human being the way he was treated when he was drafted and brought into Green Bay. It doesn't matter how he feels personally. He does not hold it against Jordan Love. And so any attempt to make this, I feel like Aaron is smart enough that he's knowing it, and so he is purposely going to go out of his way, even if he normally might have just let it go, because he knows there's a microscope on it. He is purposely, smartly doing things that maybe he might not have done because he knows he's being watched so closely, because he will not allow that narrative to be drawn between him and Favre and Rodgers and Love.
Oh, I don't blame him. What I want to understand, Micah, is why these teams across the league are doing it. It's not just Green Bay.
Yeah, I get the Aaron Rodgers deal. Aaron should have been playing since his rookie year and probably still would have been a star even earlier. Or at least decent.
Nope.
Draft board.
Nope.
Regardless of him.
He even says it now, Micah, that he needed time. Maybe not 3 years, but he needed at least a year or so to become what he became.
Sure, 1 year like we saw with Pat, behind Alex Smith or Brett Favre, probably would have been sufficient. But the problem was they had Brett Favre. But that's neither here nor there. The questions that I want to understand is why these NFL teams in a year where you absolutely have to talk to all the fans, and it's not just one team, league wide, they have basically put a gag order on their own reporters.
I can't understand it. The Raiders' Twitter, there was a video of D-tackle Maurice Hurst. I don't know if you saw this, Kyle. I see you reacting. Maurice Hurst goes off the line and pancakes Jordan Devy. Raiders' Twitter deletes it, and all their beat reporters are saying, oh, teammates felt, which this is not media, it's just the team, but it's a wild thing to do. They took the Twitter video down because his teammates felt it made Jordan Devy look bad.
Or did Jordan get upset because, okay, like...
That's a whole other thing, but I just wanted to say that was something I'd never seen before.
Your team Twitter account has done all kinds of things that have made me scratch my head over the last couple weeks. Did you see the run it back tweet?
Oh my goodness! Can we not go 7-9 again?
I said, where are you running it back to? The couch, week 17? Like, I don't.
Can we not run back being 6-4 and actually looking decent and then losing 5 of the last 6 games? Can we not do that again?
You've watched your division rival tweet the run it back hashtag for 7 months, and you thought it was a good idea to put it on your tweet and they weren't going to react to it? I looked at the comments.
It's some Chiefs person behind it secretly.
It's
mastermind.
Crazy. On the note of the Chiefs, I just want to real quick with the announcement from yesterday about the banning of the caricatures, basically, which that part I can understand. As a American Indian, as somebody of that heritage and culture, I do appreciate, when they got rid of the Indians got rid of Chief Wahoo because it was a cartoon character of that's a little, or I don't know, that team in the North Washington that used to be called the certain racial slur. I have no issue with them banning headdresses. I have no issue with them doing that. The chop is a different story, and if you know anything about the chop, you know that is not cultural appropriation. You can look that up. There is research about it. There is plenty of information about the chop. Like I said, again, as an American Indian myself, the chop to me is something that we shouldn't be getting rid of. The name is something we shouldn't be getting rid of. But the headdresses and that kind of stuff, sure, absolutely, I can understand that. I can get with that.
Because that's too okay to me. That's a great way of putting it, Kyle. Because that is now getting into. It'd be like allowing people to paint their face black. Okay, doing the blackface.
It's the same concept. Blackface or brown. Right. It's red face or whatever you want to call it. That you can't do that.
It's too. It's too much factual parts of their culture that you're kind of disgracing and making into clownery.
Yeah, you are cartoonizing. You're turning
sacred
into a cartoon and mock, and that's different. And the other thing is with the Chiefs and with the Braves and with Florida State and with these places. Look, guys, as an American Indian, if you go try to read up on American Indian history, you got to hunt for it. It's not taught very often. It's not a commonplace subject. Hell, there was a national holiday that was literally for a guy from another country who did nothing but persecute an entire race of individuals that was celebrated nationally until 4 or 5 years ago. So I don't want them to erase those things because that starts to take away from the culture that already isn't talked about enough, already isn't celebrated enough. And if you're doing it the right way and you're honoring it and you're taking the steps to communicate with the tribes, which the Chiefs have recently, 2014. Florida State's been doing it forever. They're paired with the school, with the tribe, the Seminole. That's really well done by them. But if you're taking those steps, like the Chiefs have the drum blessed, and they have they come out to the field and they interact with these tribes, and they've been trying to get rid of the headdresses and the things, and this is a good step, and I applaud them for taking steps and listening, which is something that not enough places do. But let's not go insane with it and erase an entire culture from it, because it's already happened too much with that specific culture, and you can't keep losing those identifying characteristics. But I don't want to go too long or too much more on that. I want to transition into a much lighter subject. We can talk fantasy.
We got to get to our fantasy football to wrap up the show, because we're already over our normal allotted time limit that we're supposed to be at. But you know what? I'm letting it go tonight because it was a good conversation. But we want to get to our fantasy football quickly for everybody. And there is significance because this is the last show before the Brawl Network Fantasy Draft podcast group. We are going to have it tomorrow at 3 Central, 4 p.m. Eastern, and we will all now, of this entire crew, now be frenemies from this point forward after tomorrow. So this is the last day that I can legitimately be nice to you. From this day forward, I'll be faking it.
Yeah.
It's doggy dog out here. It's cutthroat.
Being next to a Chiefs fan. No.
All right, Kyle, you are our commissioner, so let's start you off with it and explain what's going on, and then we'll get into the actual fantasy stuff.
All right, so I set it up. We're gonna run it through Sleeper. It's a nice little app I've come in contact with for running fantasy football. It's a redraft league, so we'll redraft this yearly. So this will just be for this year. It was not a dynasty league, but it's a PPR league. It's a normal PPR league, so all your standard rules as far as quarterbacks, number of position players, benches, rosters, 16 bodies, I believe is what I have it set as total. Your normal 1 quarterback, 2 running back, 2 receiver, flex, tight end, all the normal standard rules you guys are used to. And then everybody from Monday through Friday, and including our awesome producer here, Jay, is going to be in this league. So we're all going to have teams, and you're going to have conversations and matchups all throughout the season. So with that,
we actually have one famous guy in our
ringer. We have one ringer. We'll get there. He'll probably come on as a guest, I'm sure, at points and spots if he's got.
Oh, I'll make sure of that. I'll make sure B-Jack is on here for sure because he's probably going to dog us all because he likes to talk some smack. That's for sure.
In league.
Yeah, but you know what? I found out that fantasy football, for all of my knowledge, I tried to attack it in that way, and the first couple of years got my butt kicked. So then I realized I had to do the opposite. You go for the bad teams, and those are the guys, the receivers and quarterbacks you want. The good teams, you want the running backs on. Yeah, you like it's complete opposite. Like throw everything you know about football when you're playing fantasy. Just throw the book out, and you can just do some crazy stuff. I made 17 trades in our league last year.
Hey, it's pure usage. That's what it's about. Usage.
Activity. Most of fantasy is activity.
All right, so let's talk about some guys that should be going. I am picking 5th, which I know it sounds funny, but I have been picked first, and last year I picked last. And so you end up with like these large gaps in between picks. It drove me nuts because I'm hyper, and then I'm watching all the players I want go off the board. So I do not move in this snake draft at all. I'm always picking in the middle. You could have randomized it 1,000 times, and I couldn't be happier picking 5th. So
that 5th is actually my favorite spot to draft out of in many different scenarios. But all right, so you got 5th, and I believe Micah has 6th.
I'm right behind you. So whoever's on your mind, and I should have
some coin flips.
I'm
not going to tell you anything then, Micah.
So here's some fun stuff. We did a bigger draft league for the Brawl already with a bunch of other guys on a group of the NFL pods. And I had your pick, Jay, and I ended up having to coin flip it between Kamara and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And I'll tell you, I didn't take the homer pick.
Good.
Wow.
He went next.
Why would you go such a to those guys? What about like Aaron Jones, Nick Chubb, some of those guys that that you would think would go up? Because I think I would take one of those guys before I would take. In
PPR, your receptions are so much higher for certain backs. Christian McCaffrey is a huge PPR back. Alvin Kamara is a huge PPR back. You're gonna have your running back pool is pretty much predetermined by what backs catch passes the best, and that's why you heard me say Clyde over a Chubb or anybody like that. If you've paid any attention at all to what they're doing with him in Chiefs camp, and they've been trying to keep it as quiet as possible, but he's gonna be a problem for that. Remember what Kareem Hunt did right away, basically.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
He's a better athlete than Kareem Hunt by far. Though. I don't care if he's not as fast.
He has better vision. They are almost as fast. He's lower to the ground, and he's a better route runner, and he's going to eat while he's. This is going to. There's a reason that Uncle Mike, Austin Fugus, I can't ever pronounce his last name.
Fugelstad.
He took him 6th in that league, so. That's going to be one. I've gone back and forth on that, whether I made the right decision on Kamara and that one about 100 times. But I want to know who you guys would take 1-1. I know who it is for me, and that's easy. But who would you take 1-1 if you had pick one in the draft?
Micah, go ahead.
Christian McCaffrey.
Yep.
No-brainer to me.
That's who I've got.
He's in the top 5 all-time, right, for receptions in his first 3 seasons. Not just for running backs, for any player.
Yeah, he's going to – and with them having no offense other than him.
And here's where Jay's mind starts to probably get him into trouble because I am over-analytical. And I look at it and I say, this would be the 4th year Christian McCaffrey would be considered a top 5 back in fantasy, right? He's due for an injury.
Third year.
He's due for an injury. He's just due for an injury. And so I feel like you're going to take him number 1 overall. You're going to be in a snake draft. You're going to miss out on somebody else that's going to be healthy. And you're going to end up with this really amazing guy that for years has won everybody their fantasy league, and he's going to be on the shelf. And so he scares the crap out of me just because of the trend. See, I'm a trend guy, and that's how I come up with my takes. I do a lot of studies, and then a lot of film study, and then I try to find the trends, and then I try to project when that trend's going to end and when the next one's going to start and be ahead of it, right? And so I feel like this year I'm overanalyzing. I'd be a year early and I'd be dead wrong. But that's where my mind gets me into trouble. If I had the number 1 overall pick, I would have a hard time. The same reason why I didn't take Ezekiel Elliott last year, and instead I took Devontae Adams with I think I picked 7th or something like that.
Yeah, that's a fair concern. Overproduction, which turns to injury and overworking a guy. I mean, you obviously hope it doesn't happen because you have the first pick and it's the no-brainer like we talked about, but
all right.
It's tough.
Ooh, see, I see both your heads going. All right, now receivers, Kyle. Who's your top receivers, guys?
Receivers tough for me. There's so many guys at the top of that. You don't need to go receiver right away because of the point variation for me between the top wide receivers and that next tier isn't as drastic as it is from the top tier of running backs to the second tier of running backs. So for me, receivers are nice to have, but they're not immediate unless you're at the back end of a draft, like I don't know, picking 10th like I am in this one. So there's a potential that I end up going a receiver route back there. There's also a potential that maybe, just maybe, depending on scenario, a quarterback goes way too early and takes a first-round pick because I get 2 right back-to-back. Is a potential option as well.
I was just about to ask you, when is too soon to take Lamar Jackson, Mahomes?
Let's be clear. There's only 2 quarterbacks you can take.
Mahomes
I think
and Jackson.
Take early, and it's those 2.
Yeah.
And for me, it's a coin flip on which one you take. And I know people, well, he's rushing. Okay, yes, I understand. He can run the ball. He's really good at running the ball. They're really good at running the ball. Part of the thing that they do, though, is some of the time that ball leaves his hand, and then he doesn't get the stats for it. When the ball leaves Patrick Mahomes' hand, 90% of the time, he's getting a stat for it. Some stat for it. Whether it's a positive stat or a negative stat, they don't hand the ball off. Hardly ever. So if I'm going to take a quarterback early, it's for me out of those 2, it's probably Mahomes, strictly for what I said. PPR leagues, passing leagues, the league is more passing based. It's also the reason that I think he's the best player in the league regardless. But if you're going to argue that you have to pick between the 2 of them, that's why he gets the nod, is it's a passing league and it's not a running league. And
I just think the injury risk again with Lamar is too high. So to me, the edge goes to Mahomes.
You run more, you fumble more.
And you get hit more. It's just
To answer the wide receiver question, if I get to choose whichever wide receiver I want first, it's Michael Thomas, just based on volume, because everybody on the planet knows he's getting the ball and he still gets the ball.
Unless he's outside.
Yardage,
which only happens twice a year anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Right.
PPR, I mean, like Michael Thomas, you'd say, oh, well, he had a game. He only had 8 yards a catch. Okay, yeah, he got 13 catches.
He had 147 yards on 13 catches and 3 touchdowns, and he only got 8 yards a catch. Great.
All right, speed round. You guys got 90 seconds before we're closing out the show. So speed round, your last stuff, and I'll shut up.
All right. Micah, I want to know your one guy in fantasy that nobody else likes but you.
It's supposed to be a speed round. Nobody else likes?
Or the guy you don't think that anybody else is really going to be keen on or paying much attention to.
I'd like to go to a rookie.
And that may be. That's what I'm going to be doing with that. So
I mean, Henry Ruggs, it's easy for me to say, but the Raiders' receiving core was just so awful. He's stepping in. He's number 1. He's going to get all the targets for receivers. So that's one under the radar guy. People might say, oh, he hasn't proven anything, and that's why they might not like him, might not take him. So, or they say, oh, Derek Carr's not gonna. Well, they're gonna throw deep, way more than they do.
You're bound to see an increase. That's why they drafted him. I would grant you that for sure. Like I said, I can't really call him a sleeper or one guy that not everybody really loves, but I've already talked about him a little bit. But Clyde is, man, rookie-wise, he's mild shoe-in for a rookie. At minimum, offensive rookie of the year is that. The only other guy I think that's close, and this is a guy to watch, is down in Big D.
Jerry Jeudy?
Jerry Jeudy is going to have... He gets to pick on the third receiver, or the third corner, basically. You gotta cover Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup first and foremost. You got to worry about Zeke.
CeeDee Lamb, the other big D.
Sorry, CD. That's right. You got to worry about Zeke. Then you have CeeDee Lamb to sit out there and do what he did at Oklahoma. And, man...
I am not counting on any rookie wide receiver in real football or fantasy because they are not up to speed, and wide receiver is the toughest transition from college to the pros unless you're one of those really special talents that you only see once in a while. None of these guys, and I'm telling you, none of these guys are that talented. None of these guys are Julio Jones. None of these guys are OBJ. None of these guys are Megatron. None of these guys are that level of that type of talent coming out of college. There's got a lot of hype behind them, but none of these guys are that. Some are really fast. Some have some really good moves off the line, but there is no complete guy like those guys in this draft class as much as it's hyped up. You throw COVID in there, I'm not dependent on it. So it leans on the rookies. I like your guy in Kansas City. I like some of the other runners around the league out there in Buffalo, the kid that's in Arizona this year. And I'm going to tell you right now, a sleeper that a lot of people don't want to talk about, except for his calves, that I would bet on being a real big monster is A.J. Dillon. Because ain't nobody wants to tackle that dude. Nobody's going to want to tackle that dude. Like, everybody freaks out about Saquon Barkley. Like, he outweighs Saquon by almost 20 pounds. And that ain't like trying to jump up his numbers. Like, the dudes I've had on our podcast on Titletown Brawl are like, no, dude is jacked. He's big. Like, he's legitimate. He might be 260. They might be telling you he weighs less than he actually does, just so you're not
sure of it. I'm sure of it. And the other thing with him, okay, so to wrap up on the quick 90 on these, I, as a Notre Dame fan, got to see that up close and personal for multiple seasons. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, he played at Boston College.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the same guy I'm thinking about. I'm not mistaken. I think he ran for 200 and something yards against us one game. Now, we won the game, but he ran for like 235 yards or something.
And also, he is a screen swing route monster that nobody talks about. Turn on his
The thing is he going to get on the field with Aaron Jones in front of him?
Yes, because Aaron Jones has a problem. We talked about this on our show. Aaron Jones, inside the 5-yard line, can convert 3 yards and less to get to the end zone. You put him in between the 20s, and they were putting the ball constantly. He has a nose for the end zone, but he does not have a nose to convert third and shorts in the run game when they know they're going to run. So Aaron will still be on the field, and think of I think week 4 through week 8 or 9, right, when they lost Devontae Adams, and then think of the Dallas game. Now put A.J. Dillon as the number 1 with Aaron Jones doing all that. That's a nightmare. Now you don't care that you didn't go get a wide receiver in the first round. That's what I've been trying to tell everybody. Well, you didn't need him. Aaron Jones is the last year of his contract, and he's not a power back, and he's proven they've gave him plenty of opportunities. That's not his thing. He can score you points, but his thing is not converting third and shorts for you. That's not his thing. That's why they went and did what they did. They have their guy that's look, this is what I compare him to, and it's obviously taken the speed out of it. First 2 or 3 years of Tyreek Hill before he became a route savant.
The kid,
Aaron Jones.
Yeah, and that's a fun. I'm glad you brought that up because that's the other guy and he's not a rookie. He's a second-year player, and you said the reason why he didn't get much run last year, and especially in the offense he's in, is the other guy in Kansas City.
Mecole Hardman? Oh, he's
Correct.
a monster. He's a monster. And I had him on my team, and I would not let him go because I kept thinking, he's going to break out. He's going to break out. He's going to break out. But I was a year too early on him.
This year.
I was a year early on him.
Bananas this year. It's
Final
similar to what they did.
Guys.
Gonna be crazy. He is set up to have. He's what I just talked about with CD down in Dallas. I'm probably a year early on CD, just like I was a little bit early on Mecole last year because I thought the same thing you did. I thought he was going to come out a little sooner, but at the same time, I know how much Andy hates rookie wide receivers. He doesn't hate them, but he doesn't trust them. He just doesn't, especially with the route trees and the Chiefs route trees and all the stuff he asks those guys to do. He doesn't like giving them all to him at once. But this year, especially with all this free time that they've had to sit in Zoom meetings and study, oh, man. Oh, boy. If you're looking for a receiver late in a late round that a lot of people aren't going to be taking crazy stuff on, it's Mecole. He's going to get looks because everybody's going to say they got Tyreek and Sammy in front of him, and that's fine, but don't expect Sammy to keep getting all the looks that he's been getting. They're going to start splitting those up.
You and I may be fighting over him in the late rounds in our draft.
So I get him in the second round just to have him on my bench.
No, see, now we got Michael over here being the freaking scrub now. All right, Michael, last word.
All right, Josh Jacobs. Don't be surprised if he's a top 5 or even top 3 running back. I'm telling you, production, which I'm working on an article right now, I'm saying 350 touches is what he needs.
He's a beast, too, Michael.
I like that, actually, for him. I think that would be a huge key for Derek Carr in that offense.
He's what makes everything go, especially for a quarterback who you prefer not to throw 40 times.
Jimmy Garoppolo-ish in the.
Yeah.
Carr is better. I think Carr is better
than Garoppolo.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious because the Niners are paying Garoppolo like he's closer to Deshaun Watson than he is to Mitchell Trubisky.
That's just the going rate on these quarterbacks, man. It's getting crazy, and they're going to have to think about something sooner or later before it gets way out of hand because we're getting there. Mahomes setting the bar the way he did, it's only going to get crazier.
I think he put a cap on it because I don't think anybody else in the league can walk into their GM's front office and go, you got to pay me more than that guy. All the GMs are going to go, why? You're not anywhere close to that guy.
That's why these agents are so good.
He's not in the same stratosphere.
It's the agents.
It's the agents, though. It's the agents.
Sure. And the GMs are going to laugh.
That's what we thought. I honestly, as good as Mahomes did, I didn't think Mahomes would get that. I thought Mahomes would get 40, and they would say, we'll give you 40. I mean, he's going to be pushing $50 million cap hit in some of these years later in the contract if he gets.
Well, actually, one of them is like $63 million,
That's
but that one's not
until
2024 or something.
I mean, it's down the road, so it's not a big deal. But
and the other thing is they put in, and I don't want to dive too deep because this Mahomes contract is you could do 2 hours of actual conversation on that, all the intricacies of that deal. But that term that they kind of invented or at least brought to light for everyone, guaranteed mechanisms, that those roster bonuses, they'll be doing some maneuvering of that stuff. That's done so that they don't have to do what the Patriots did where they had to tear the contract up every time and start over. This way they can just maneuver stuff however they see fit throughout without necessarily having to tear it up and start over every time. But that's my last thing with Mecole. I want to get out. Let's get out of here before we get too crazy. I know I'm eating into your late night times here, and everybody's probably ready to go. So I talk too much. I know.
Nah, we all talk too much, but it's all right. We're getting the hell out of here. Follow these guys on Twitter. Kyle is at KThen16. Micah is at Micah_right. I am at UPGJ33. And follow the Brawl Network at Network Brawl. And follow, like, and share our Facebook page by searching the Brawl Network. Also, hit up the network on IG by searching Network Brawl. We love you all. It's Friday, so we're out of here until Monday where we're back with Usaid on his day. Have a great weekend. We love you all. Peace out and brawl out, baby. Oh, and by the way, hit up the website, thebrawlnetwork.com. Go there, sign up for free. It's your one-stop shop. The Brawl has it all, baby. Now we can leave. Have a great weekend. Peace out.
put your hand in mine. Forever's about to happen right here in this moment of time. So let's draw a line right here in the sand, and let it be said that on this very day is the day that we took a stand. Cause not just a game, it's more than a game, it's more than the hurt, it's more than the pain, it's more than the glory, it's more than the fame. This right here is about legacy, man, so it's bigger than me, it's bigger than us. We can lose sight in the midst of the fuss, let's slow it down and take it in. Enjoy this moment, what's the rush? Definitely bad, but we wanted more. This is what we've been waiting for. With tears in our eyes, we let our hearts roar. Unleash war when we walk out this door. We won't be delayed, we won't be denied. In the end, we won't refuse with clear eyes, a full heart. There's no way that we can lose.